So thank you everyone for joining us. Again, please let us know in the chat where you are from. We'd love to know who's joining us. There's a Google Doc resource that will be shared with all of our links and our contact information. And do know that it defaults to everyone. And so make sure our defaults to host and panelist, make sure that you change that to everyone so we can see your information. Brittany and Aaron, do you see my Google document of resources?
I do.
Yep.
Fantastic. So this is the resource document that Aaron is sharing and will be posted multiple times throughout tonight's webinar, but we are thrilled to have you joining us again, diving into news literacy, summer school ideas. Ladies, I taught summer school. I don't know if Brittany or Aaron, either of you taught summer school, but I remember we had them for a short, I think it was a 2 or 3 week period. It was half of the day. We wanted it to be fun. We wanted it to be engaging. We wanted them to continue their learning while honing those skills necessary for school. We tried to mix in multiple disciplines. We even took little miniature field trips. It was a fantastic way to keep connected with the students. And I enjoyed it. I was a co-teacher, so I taught it with one of my great friends. What about you, Brittany, Aaron, ever teach summer school before?
I have not, but I've heard many stories about it.
I have, and it was organized similarly with, engaging, fun, helping students hone those skills, whatever those skills we needed to work on. So this is right in line with what I would have wanted in the classroom.
Exactly. So again, welcome. My name is Shaylin Farnsworth. I'm joined by my colleagues, Aaron and Brittany, who you will hear from later. And we are excited that you're joining us for summer school ideas. The News Literacy Project, we have been around since 2008. And so I actually used some of the first iteration of resources with my summer school kids way back when I was in the classroom, and they loved it. So now our resources have morphed into more classroom ready, multimodal, more relevant, pulling in examples. So definitely one for you to consider. Again, here's our mission and vision. You can breathe through this, but we believe that education is the most effective approach because it empowers people to think for themselves and to recognize credible sources of information as well as misinformation. News literacy is engaging, it's relevant across the disciplines and grade levels, and it's a great lead-in to your media literacy learning. All of our resources, again, are completely free to use. It's not a freemium. They will always remain free for educators, free for students. So everything that we're sharing with you this afternoon is completely free. But on top of that, so are our programs. Our most noteworthy one, Newslit Nation, is our community of educators. I know I put the link on the document, but we have a contest coming up. Brittany, Aaron, I don't know if you've heard about this contest, but we are giving a classroom set of books away, Some Kind of Hate by Sarah Littman. And so not only is Newslit Nation having a giveaway of classroom set of books, but also an author visit from her. She will Zoom in. So if you are not a member of Newslit Nation Facebook group, make sure you click that link, become a member and sign up, because the drawing is, when is that drawing again, Brittany? Trying to read through there, Aaron.
I was on mute.
There we go.
It is tomorrow at noon Eastern.
Thank you. So tomorrow,
No
noon
problem.
Eastern, Thursday. So make sure, if you are not part of Newslit Nation, to join the Facebook group and fill out that link. But let's jump right in to summer school. So top 4 reasons to use NLP resources for summer school. First, they are extremely relevant and engaging. Like we mentioned, multimodal learning, short videos, relevant platform examples, everything from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter, being pulled in for your students to discern fact from falsehoods and hone those critical thinking skills. I know this is one of your favorites, Brittany, empowering. It provides those critical thinking skills necessary to be advocate for yourself and others, the ability to identify mis and disinformation, and to be an active member of your community and in the democracy. So it's definitely empowering. Classroom ready, can't beat that. All of our materials are ready to use tomorrow in your classroom. Most of the assessment on Checkology is formative assessment and auto-graded. There are a few teacher evaluations within the lesson, but most are done automatically for you, as well as fun. You want summer school, summer learning to be fun, not a continuation of the school year they just ended. And so definitely need to check out our resources. So we're going to focus on Checkology first. It is our flagship program. We've had some of our colleagues create wonderful preset courses explicitly for summer school. Checkology is a free browser-based platform. You don't have to download any software. You just need an up-to-date device and browser, and you can access this learning for your students. 20 lessons, as well as dozens of supplementary activities, exercises, challenges aligned to the standards. So think ELA, C3 framework for social studies, NGSS, ISTE student standards. So lots of great learning that's all aligned to the courses that you already teach. So we're starting with Checkology for a few reasons. First, every summer, according to our privacy policy and all our maintenance schedule, Checkology is down the month of July. So June is typically when summer school is held. And we definitely have preset courses that are shorter in length and perfect to use in your June summer school. Here are the two preset courses that we are going to share with you, as well as how to access them. The first one is summer school. This is a general foundational course. You'll see there is a middle school and high school course that are slightly different depending on the student, but do know that all of these are customizable. So if you find lessons that you want to add, or if you want to delete, you can do that to any of the preset courses. The STEM summer, this is definitely for middle school. And I know, Brittany, you were looking at it and you said also high school. So this would be appropriate for middle school or high school. It's composed of 5 lessons, 2 exercise, and 2 missions. So definitely ones that we are going to share with you and focus on tonight. So here's a breakdown of our middle school. You'll see it focuses on such topics as info zones, which is one of our foundations that helps students identify the primary purpose, to what is news, to branded content, to add or not, introduction to algorithms, and verifying social media content. The summer school high school course is very similar in nature, but you'll see that we've also added a couple other exercises and lessons. Is it legit? A brand new lesson that our team loves. It's listicle in nature. All of the tips that Hannah shares are easy to apply and fantastic to bring with you into the summer months. Can you Google search like a pro? Another favorite. Misinformation, evaluating evidence online, and the power in art, the watchdog role of editorial cartoonists. Lots of great activities you can use with that. So throughout this webinar, we're going to not only preview both of those, but Erin's going to dig into these 2 lessons that you see before you. Is it legit? And the power in art, to kind of highlight the summer school course learning. But Brittany's also going to be sharing the STEM summer school course. Brittany has a science background, as you heard, those people that joined us earlier, working on her PhD. She is the one that aligned to NGSS, so fantastic resource. If there's any STEM teachers out there, science, math teachers, definitely connect with Brittany. And this includes a collection of mostly new resources on our Checkology platform. So I'm going to pull this back actually, because you'll see there's making sense of data. There's level of evidence with Dr. Cat, be health informed, science-based claims. So lots of great information that students can focus with a STEM background. During her conversation, Brittany's going to highlight 2 of the lessons and exercises in the STEM summer course, the Can You Search Like a Pro? And that is hosted by Cindy Otis. It has an infographic that provides 8 tips to Google like a pro, as well as Be Health Informed, that deals with medical misinformation and how you can join in the fight against medical misinformation and make healthy decisions. There's a few things that Brittany, you feel it's important for people to know, especially with this new STEM collection. So I'm going to definitely pass this over to you and let you comment on a few of these slides that you put in here about the STEM resources we have.
Thank you. I just wanted to stick in a couple of slides that make the case for teaching news literacy in STEM. And so if you go to the next slide, you will see that I've included a quote from one of NSTA's, or National Science Teacher Association's, publications. And so I just pulled out a couple of points, but essentially, Anne Haley McKenzie says that science teachers have never been more important than they are today. And if we're only teaching our students to kind of regurgitate these scientific facts, theories, then we failed. Our students don't just need to know the science, but they need to be able to use the science to evaluate issues that they see in the news and media. Because as Anne says, our students are consumers of the plethora of information that's present in today's world. And so if you go to the next slide, you will see that I called out some specific pieces of alignment to NGSS. If you think about the science and engineering practices, if anyone is familiar with the NGSS standards or the next generation's science standards, these standards have practices that scientists and engineers use while they perform their daily jobs. And so I've called out 4 of them, and you'll see them, but they are engaging in argument from evidence, obtaining, evaluating, and communicating information, analyzing and interpreting data, and using math and computational thinking. And so those things you will see throughout our STEM summer Checkology course.
Great. Thank you, Brittany. So excited that we created the summer school course, because I love all of our new STEM resources. A fantastic learning for our students. As I mentioned earlier, in July is when Checkology is offline for summer maintenance, new edition, any bug fixes, but the learning doesn't stop with NLP, because as you know, we have a resource library complete with infographics, quizzes, news goggles from the SIFT. So you can continue the learning if your summer school happens to take place in July or early August. You can continue the learning with NLP resources. The resource library, again, is free to access. It is linked on the document, and you will find that it is searchable by grade levels. It's searchable by type. So you'll see quizzes, infographics, resources, a wealth of knowledge. Like I said, news goggles is a perfect fit to your summer learning. It's part of the SIFT our newsletter that comes out weekly during the school year, a perfect addition, as well as some reference to Rumor Guard, our most recent digital property that shows the 5 factors and how do you track the credibility of information that someone finds online. We know that teachers are loving Rumor Guard. It is frequently brought up. It's definitely a public site, so anyone can access it, but teachers are finding multiple uses on Rumor Guard to use in their classroom. So before we dig into our resources and Checkology, I'm going to pause to see if there were any questions, Brittany and Aaron, from the chat that people may have about the information they just received.
No, not specifically. A question that we'll address about July's maintenance, but otherwise, none so far.
Great.
Amy actually just popped something in the chat that I think we can address as we go through. It's Erin and I demo. She's interested in learning about how different disciplines use the resources in their classroom. So that we'll definitely address as we demo.
Yeah, great question and perfect now that I'm on this resource document too, and we were deciding if we were going to leave this on, and good thing we did. So you'll see right up top is the landing page. This is our summer school landing page. You'll see it not only references the Checkology courses and gives you a little bit of information about them, but it also then provides different panels for the July learning from our resource library. So you'll see everything from a quiz you can use to the levels of scientific evidence infographic. Here's the listening guide that Brittany was referencing. We have a public facing podcast, but since it's the golden age of podcasting, many of our episodes are relevant to share with students in the classroom. So we have developed listening guides to support that learning as well. So you can check this out. Again, all of this is accessible on the landing page, and that is linked on the Google document. Along with all of our other resources, ways to get in touch with us. Like I said, we included the Newslet Nation giveaway. So if you're interested in joining our Facebook group and getting in on Sarah's classroom set of books, definitely do that. But then we decided here at the very end of the document to leave this in, and good thing we did. This is what Brittany was referencing and what they'll touch upon later. We have the most used news literacy Checkology lessons according to discipline area. So of course, this is not all of the things that are used in each discipline, but these are very popular lessons. You'll see there's a social studies one, ELA, there's a STEM one, and also digital citizenship with all connections to news literacy. So we definitely have resources across the disciplines. As we said at the beginning, it's applicable across disciplines, applicable across grade levels, aligned, and it's definitely a supplementary curriculum that you can add to your learning objectives. All right, so I have already logged into my Checkology account. Here's what a teacher dashboard looks like. Now I'm going to show you how to access the courses. Creating a course in a class on Checkology is extremely easy. Once you log in, you will see a big plus sign where you add a class, and you simply click this, you title it. So let's call this Summer School Middle School. Student type, middle school, grade level, let's say 8th grade subject. I'm going to put other. And once you create a class, it creates the class for you. So this is where you add students. It's a simple link to have them join. You can send it in an email. You can put it in an LMS. You can also manually upload the students if you would like to, but most students are used to checking their LMSs and clicking on that link to join. If you go underneath classroom settings and advanced setting, here's where you can add a co-teacher. I know summer school is typically taught by 2, 3, 4 educators at a time. So you can definitely add everyone together so they have a view of the student work and the lessons, along with multiple other options. The one-to-many mode, we were just discussing this today, is if you want to do some whole class instruction. So you are sharing the learning, the videos up on the screen. They still have the ability to do the formative assessment individually, but it kind of grays out the videos on their account. So that is the one-to-many mode. If you have summer school where they have optional time at the end to work on their studies while you're doing, let's say, some intervention or specific discipline work. If you change this course lock to off, it allows students to progress through the lessons at their own pace in any order that they want. So if you have more of a differentiated classroom setup where you have students working on multiple things at the same time, this course lock, if you simply slide it off, that's a tongue twister there. If you slide it off, it allows students to work through those lessons on their own in the order that they choose. All right, so once you push assign the course, what Checkology does is it defaults to either a foundations middle school class or a foundations high school class based on the grade level that you chose when you were setting up your course. And this is how you change your courses, customize it, or preview it. So this small button underneath here allows you to change the course. When you push change the course, it'll show you a list of all of your custom courses, but then also you'll see here's preset or subject by subject or skill set that we have created for you or that have been shared by educators around the country for their needs. So you'll see we have a science one, an ELA, a journalism. Here's the Misinfo 101. That was another popular one, perfect for summer school. You'll see we have a media literacy for Illinois educators. And here at the very bottom, since it's our new one, is the STEM summer school course. You'll see it has 9 items. You can preview it. When you preview it, it pops open exactly the course highlights, the lessons, the challenges, the exercises, the description. And if you decide to assign that course, then you assign it to the class, give it a title, and you're off and running. So again, I'm going to show you how to select the preset courses. I just showed you the STEM one, but you also find the summer school general ones right underneath it. So here again, I'm scrolling through all the preset courses. There's the STEM summer school one, and this one's in a different category because it is differentiated for middle school and high school. So again, these are at the bottom of the list. When you change the course, you select either the high school summer course, the middle school summer course, or the STEM course. So let's say I'm going to do the middle school summer course, preview, and I'm going to assign it. Once you assign it to the course, you also have the ability to customize it. So if you have a shorter summer school, let's say it's only 2 weeks instead of 3 weeks, or maybe even 1 week. This is a very intuitive dashboard. So I'm here customizing the courses. The X means you're going to delete it. So let's say we're not going to talk about what is news, but instead we're going to bring in understanding bias. So it's either a simple X out if you don't want to add it, or just a drag and drop if you do want to add it. Again, I'm going to show you what the understanding bias looks like because you may receive alerts like was just shown if you want to add the supplementary activities as well. So it's very intuitive dashboard. It lets you know if there's other exercises and challenges that go along with that lesson. And it asks you if you want to add them as well. So I know that was extremely quick. I'm going to pause to see if there are any questions about how to find those summer school courses in your Checkology teacher account to assign to your students.
I see a question from Amy about info zones. But Amy, would you clarify your question? Not sure I understand. And while she's doing that, Shaylin, you can probably continue, and I'll alert you if there's something else.
Right. Yeah, and we have Aaron that's pulling this up. So can you use info zones if you haven't used the lesson? Will they understand it? I thought info zones activities went with a certain lesson. So if I don't use the lesson, will the info zones make sense? That's a good question, and I'm sure Aaron can pull that up there. The info zones, our content is divided into 3 different portions. Right now, Aaron's showing you underneath the first tab all of our lessons. Info zones would be the foundational lessons, and it's longer in nature. But if you want to hone those skills that info zone is helping students learn, then in the practice and extend exercises, you'll see, especially up top there, info zones that relate to the main lesson. Yeah, for sure, Amy. And I think, it's all dependent on time in your classroom, access. I'm sure Brittany and Aaron can add some things about their relationship, but I think they deal with primary purpose in helping students understand that the information they consume is done intentionally and has a primary purpose. And Tracy Potts, who is the leader of the learning or subject matter expert, helps students understand the zone of information it's related to. Aaron, thanks for showing that. Anything else you would like to add about info zones and those practice and extend exercise lessons before you jump in?
I think you did a great job explaining. I suppose if someone started with the practice extension, it would serve more as a pretest of sorts to see what students know and what they understand about that, and maybe demonstrate a need to dive into the lesson to examine that learning. But by design, they're just meant to be exactly as the name calls out, practice and extend. Okay, group. Well, I would love to share a bit of the middle school and high school summer course. So I'm going to dive right in. Feel free to ask questions along the way. Shaylin and Brittany will help me out so I can pause for that. But I'm going to take us out of the content tab. That's where I'm at right now, group. If I'm looking in my dashboard, I'm in this content tab, and I'm going to take us to the resources tab right here. I wanted to show this to you because it has all of our, Shaylin mentioned this, that we have lesson posters and we have lesson guides. And so the lesson I'm going to show first is Power in Art, and I'm bringing us to that lesson guide. It's a Google Doc. All of the lesson guides give a nice synopsis, a nice overview of what that lesson is going to entail. And the power in art, the watchdog role of editorial cartoonist, centers on the history of editorial cartooning as a unique and powerful form of opinion journalism. And so, I think we're familiar with editorials as opinion journalism, but Lalo Alcaraz, that's our subject matter expert, who is actually an editorial cartoonist, famous one at that, on the West Coast. He leads this lesson and discusses not only the origins of editorial cartooning, but also its effect and its important role in journalism. I'm going to show you a snippet of some of that lesson, but I really want you to listen for and watch for the 3 things that you think make up an editorial cartoon, because I think that's really, really, really important as we are teaching our students to be able to spot and differentiate between editorial cartooning, propaganda, and of course, modern day memes, which Lalo Alcaraz gets into. So you see on this lesson guide, the objectives. I'm going to scroll through slowly. And the essential questions, and then a nice outline so you can see what's covered, as well as, now, please don't get dizzy as I scroll a little more quickly, but the word wall. The word wall accompanies all of our lessons and is helpful for expanding students' vocabulary and really getting at that tiered vocabulary if you focus on academic talk. So I find that helpful, and that can be pulled up during a video. So let's hear from Lalo. So I'm just going to play just a snippet so you can hear his voice and see the quality of the lessons that we have. So Lalo is just giving us a nice little overview of what we're about to learn during the Power of Art.
In this lesson, we'll take a look at the unique and, from my perspective, amazing form of opinion journalism that is editorial cartooning. We'll walk through the history of editorial and political cartoons and view some important examples together. We'll also think about how these drawings can play a watchdog role in democracy, testing boundaries, pushing buttons, exposing wrongdoing, and holding powerful people accountable for their actions, and making some of them pretty darn angry in the process.
As you can imagine, because it is opinion journalism. And so Lalo goes on to talk about that. So based on what you just saw, thinking about what Lalo showed as examples of editorial cartoonists, you saw an image, you saw an idea, an issue, and then opinion. So those things do equal editorial cartooning. Throughout our lessons, we have formative assessments, which Shaylin mentioned. And so this formative assessment, I'm just showing you as an example. After we learn more about opinion journalism and the many forms that opinion journalism takes, here we get to compare, contrast. How is an editorial cartoon different than an actual article about the same subject? And what an awesome way to dive into two different texts, essentially. And so students type in their answer and submit. You heard Shaylin mention that most of the formative assessments are auto-graded. Obviously, this one isn't. So it would, require you to weigh in on an answer. But there are lots of schools that will have students type in their answer and then bring it back to whole group conversation. And I would see that as extremely fitting for summer school that's in person, that students share their thoughts and then it was discussed as a whole group. So another example I wanted to show you of a formative assessment is this one. So this is just diving into really that vocabulary that Lalo has taught as a tool that an editorial cartoonist uses to accomplish their mission, and that would be caricature. So you can see something from the very first, one of the very first editorial cartoons in our country, along with a few more throughout history. So students would get to identify that use. Now, I mentioned that Lalo takes all of this and hits it home and brings it right to where students live and what they experience every day, and that's memes. And so we might think that memes and editorial cartoons are quite similar. Let's see what Lalo has to say about that.
Then there are memes, muchos memes, and they actually have some things in common with editorial cartoons. They use images and text. They often express a point of view about an issue or event. They're efficient and transmit ideas quickly, and they're often very funny. And of course, they get passed around and go viral because they're accessible to everyone and often amusing. Kind of like some of those early editorial cartoons we talked about at the beginning of the lesson. But there are important differences to watch for. For one thing, legit editorial cartoonists are expected to get their facts right. If they base their opinions on falsehoods, reputable outlets won't publish their work. And they still have to combine the three main elements of their craft: an opinion, an idea for expressing that opinion, and a drawing. A lot of graphic political expression online doesn't play by any rules. Anyone can create memes with a computer or smartphone, and they routinely and anonymously use photos out of context, pass off falsehoods as facts, and express baseless opinions, some of which are even offshoots of harmful conspiracy theories. It's true that memes make graphic political expression more accessible, but when they're made with no editorial standards and no commitment to facts, then they're nothing more than propaganda. Weapons in a partisan information war that distorts and flattens the national conversation about important issues.
So I sincerely appreciate that Lalo brings that point up, because he's referencing the standards of journalism, and we have a great infographic that spells that out for you, that you'd be able to pull and use if you so chose. But that difference of how harmful really memes can be in spreading misinformation, and we know that enters our students' feed. So this is extremely timely and relevant to our students' lives as they really think about a healthy skepticism when it comes to news literacy and it comes to the content that they encounter. So I appreciate that explanation. I appreciate thinking about editorial cartoonists basing their opinions on fact, on something real, and not distorting truth to the point of propaganda. In fact, Lalo Alcaraz talks about editorial cartooning as being a light, which I love that imagery when thinking about that watchdog role. And so just to call out a few things, you saw the word wall, in that overview guide that I pulled up at the beginning. You can access that during a video, and when students are in their formative assessment, they can pull up that word wall as well. So that's the 2 W's right there. Are there any questions about Lalo Alcaraz's The Power of Art lesson? And if there are, put in the chat, or you can speak them out, and I'm going to pull up our next learning.
No questions, but definitely people love this. Raylene said, I love this. It's one of our favorite lessons as well, for exactly the highlights that Aaron mentioned, because it is so relevant, it's so engaging, but then he brings it up to current day memes and what students don't know memes. They even have, homecoming days as memes. So
right.
relevant and engaging, and does the important work of making sure to make that comparison and the standards of quality journalism. So a fun one.
Definitely. And I know what we were asked about uses. And so while this might seemingly be seemingly be civics, social studies, history, most definitely can be used in an ELA classroom, because ELA classroom students are creators of content, write supported arguments, and this could be a nice background knowledge about one avenue of opinion writing or opinion creation, where this learning could lead and connect to what students were designing, because there's so many methods and modes in which students can publish, not just a traditional 5-paragraph essay. So I see this could fit in lots of spaces and places. Before my time's up with sharing from the middle school, high school, I do want to take you to one more part of a lesson. And it has soon become one of my favorites. And that's from our very own colleague, Hannah, who not only was a teacher, but she is also a former journalist. And she's taking us through 5 steps for verifying information, just as journalists do. But these steps are so important, not only to our own searches, our own personal lives, but also to the research that we do across content within the variety of classrooms. So I see this as spanning age, stage, and content most definitely. My eye just caught Stephen Tinker versus Des Moines, and yes, most definitely. I taught AP Language and Comp, and that was part of my work and my content as well. So okay, so we're going to hear from Hannah. about doing a quick search, about thinking about lateral reading. This is all about how to get at the best information, how to fact check, how to decide, what's real, what's not. So do a quick search. Let's hear from Hannah.
Okay, step one should be really easy to remember. Do a quick search. I know, it might sound like a no-brainer, right? But doing just one simple search can make all the difference and can often save you from even needing to do the other steps. Now, when I say search, I'm not talking about searching on social media.
Oh,
Be sure to go to a search engine like Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and see what other legitimate sources have to say about the news source you're evaluating. This is called lateral reading, a term first introduced by researchers at Stanford University. Journalists and fact checkers use this skill all the time to assess information online. It's a game changer. Let me show you what I mean. Recently, I came across this TikTok video about a dad reportedly helping his daughter practice ballet. Seems pretty fun and harmless, right? But I noticed this label at the bottom that said Russian state-controlled media. What? It was posted by an account called In the Now, which seems to post a lot of these feel-good type stories. But when I go to their profile, all I see is a bio that says, kindness is dope. I mean, agreed, it totally is, but that doesn't tell me anything about this account. So to find out about this source, the quickest and easiest thing I can do is open a new tab or hop over to Google to do a search. When I type In the Now in my search bar, I get a lot of results, but I really want the most credible sources. So I'm going to tweak my search terms and click the News tab to narrow my results. Other news sources clearly call its credibility into question. They say it's controlled by the Russian government and is connected to another source called RT. And hey, a quick search of RT gives us another clear answer. These sources are state-controlled and funded by the Russian government. That means they're not independent or free of government influence, and they can't be trusted as a credible source. So hey, while these videos may seem harmless, we need to be skeptical and critical of everything they publish. That's because state-controlled media doesn't exist to inform you. It exists to influence you in some way. To make the sponsoring government look good, or to make other governments, certain groups, or certain ideas look bad.
okay. So I think this is great learning for everybody. Teachers, students alike. And some people are like, well, why does that, matter? Like it's all feel good, but it does matter. It does matter when we consider the way that social platforms might be data mining, and then who has access to that, and then is it seemingly influential and we don't even realize it? Because when we're in those spaces, it's often a mindless scroll. We don't have our keen eyes. We're not attentive with our goggles to be skeptical, to discern. And so I just think that's a really important lesson. The example that students can apply their learning to is a question about, is this a credible source? So they can use that lateral reading to that, to have that detective work to see if Global Times is legit or not, just as the title of this lesson is a legit. So I shared and showed a whole lot to just give you a glimpse of what's in that summer school class. And this is good learning all the time. And, as you remember, I was in that dashboard. You can get that content is it legit as well towards the bottom. It's listed in the content, but also as you consider what you can do for summer school, if you want to have a little special gem edition, that is the Journalist to Classroom program. And you can have your class Zoom with the journalist, where a journalist will extend the learning that you have just done. You can search by location, you can search by area of expertise. And I just wanted to mention that because I think this is something that would add some joy into summer school and would be an awesome opportunity for students to connect with a professional. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And I hope you enjoyed the 2 overviews, little snippets, little glimpses into that course. I'm going to stop sharing. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll answer as I let Brittany start sharing.
Thanks,
The
Aaron. So
unmute,
much.
sorry.
Yeah, I know. Brittany and I are in awe here. Fantastic learning. Everyone was very excited. And as Brittany sets up here, one question that we receive is, how much does it cost to have the journalist join your classroom?
That's all free. So these are vetted journalists that are volunteering their time because they are so passionate about, about their profession and about this learning, and see how valuable and important it is that they want to support that in classrooms. And yes, the webinar will be, it is being recorded.
I want to also add, I hope you all can hear me, that you can also search by language. So if you teach students who are speakers of other languages, it's a really wonderful opportunity to tie in their native language with the language that they're learning. It looks like I'm having some difficulty. I'm unable to see any picture. Are you all able to see my screen and hear me all right?
Yeah, perfect, Brittany.
Okay.
Definitely hear you. And it says on the screen, skills you'll need for this mission.
Perfect. So the mission that I'm going to share with you today, thank you, Stephen. I just saw your feedback. The first mission that the first resource I'm going to share with you is a mission. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm sharing the STEM summer school Checkology preset course. And so this course is going to connect to the science and engineering practices that I shared earlier in the presentation. The first resource I'm sharing, like I said, is called Can You Search Like a Pro? And this is a mission. So this is an opportunity for students to practice the skills that they learn through the lessons. This lesson is led by Cindy Otis, who is a former CIA worker. And she walks students through a challenge. And so let me get rid of this floating meeting control. Once students start, they'll be presented with the opportunity to check out some of the tutorials that we offer. So these are things that they can pull up and refer to throughout the learning. So first, they could pull up this Google Like a Pro infographic, and then Cindy's got two different tutorials. One is about lateral reading, the other is about online search skills. And that's just to provide students with some scaffolding. And so as the learning begins, Cindy reaches out to the students via phone to invite them into the mission.
Hi there, this is Cindy Otis, and I just wanted to call personally to thank you for applying to be an analyst on my team and to offer you the job. I'm working on a big project about an obscure conspiracy theory with a few weird twists and turns, and I could really use your help. I'm really glad to have you on board. I just sent you an email with your first task.
Uh-oh.
Hi there, this is Cindy Otis.
I apologize for starting it again, but what Cindy is talking about is the birds aren't real conspiracy theory. And as you know, if you've seen any of our resources about teaching news literacy in these times, one thing that we recommend is that you start with something that will not trigger students. So most students know that birds are not spies sent from the government, and they are in fact real, which makes this theory a perfect lead-in, a perfect tool for this learning. So after Cindy invites the students into the learning, she goes on to give them a task. And their task is to find an article about the birds aren't real theory within a specific time range. And so students are instructed to open a tab and begin searching. And so what they'll do is something like this. They will search for birds aren't real in quotation marks, and then they'll go to tools, and they will be able to input their custom date. And so it was September 1st of 2018 and November 30th of 2018. And so once students put that in, then they will see all of the resources. But if they go back, they'll note that it needs to be from a Chicago-based news organization. So she further narrows down what students need to find, which is a great exercise for anyone, as one of the participants said earlier. Instead of telling students what article to use right off the bat, we actually asked them through formative assessment for the publication, the reporter's name, and the founder of the birds aren't real theory. Once students have gone through that, Cindy's got another task for them, and she shares it through voicemail. So let's listen in.
Hi there, it's Cindy. Great job finding that local news report with the name of the Birds Aren't Real movement's founder. This will help us take the next step and go deeper. Can you please do a new search designed to return only results that include both the exact phrase "birds aren't real" and the founder's name? Remember, it's Peter McIndoe. MCIN.
And so she spells the last name for students of the individual that she'd like them to further use to further narrow their search. And so then, as I demonstrated before, students would use those parameters and get new information. And so then Cindy reaches out via text. What I love about this lesson is that it is very realistic. So it really puts students in the shoes of someone who is working for Cindy and what they might actually do for their job. And so she tasks them with doing the same search, but limiting it to a specific website. And of course, this just models for students how to properly Google. And so students are presented with this formative assessment, which I think is really creative because it includes videos and it includes pictures that students have to evaluate to see what's included. Students do actually get to see the article that they should have pulled up, which is this article from the Audubon. And finally, Cindy,
Hi there.
Oops, I apologize for starting that. Finally, Cindy pulls the student in and ends with kind of a challenge of what they can do and how they can incorporate this into their daily lives. So let's listen.
Hi there. I just wanted to call and thank you for sending that Audubon piece. It's really important in a couple of ways. First, it shows that the whole Birds Aren't Real movement was started as a joke. And second, it establishes that there's a merchandising angle. These are both really important details that give us what we need to debunk this false satirical conspiracy theory. That's all I have on this project for now, which is a good thing since it's almost 5 p.m. Go ahead and log off for the day and have a great night. Nice work today. Hi there.
So she circles back and she talks through students through how we were able to debunk this theory through proper Googling. And so I'd love to hear any questions that you have about this particular lesson while I set up our next demo.
I don't see any questions, but there was comments back and forth about the relevance. And Erin, you were sharing walking students through the infographic.
Yes. Sorry, Erin, go ahead.
Well, just the infographic that accompanies that, I think that's a great visual to have posted like all the time. I know I reference it, and I reference it. I think teachers would, I think students would, and I just appreciate that lesson also has students apply that learning as a means to complete that challenge. So it's just a nice change of pace, a different setup that I think is a great addition to the STEM coursework.
Absolutely. And if you are a teacher who uses interactive notebooks, even if they're digital, this is a great thing to either print out and have students stick in the front of their notebook. I used to have my students actually do their reference material in the back. Or if it's a digital interactive notebook, of course, you could create a separate section for this infographic. So I agree, Erin, it's something that, you know, students can refer to this all year. It's a fabulous resource. And Erin just called out how it spans the content, so it's cross-curricular. So not only are we talking about something that is science related, but we are also talking about skills that are easily transferable to other disciplines. Great. So the next lesson that I am going to share with you is called Be Health Informed. And so I think that Erin shared how to find resources and a lesson guide during her presentation. But I do want to show you that there's also a lesson guide for this lesson, as well as all of our lessons. And so this is a wonderful resource that can be turned into a worksheet or study guide for your students. It's a great place for you to take notes if you're using our platform in the one-to-many mode. So lots of uses for this Google document that will help you with implementation. So within Be Health Informed, we meet a Dr. Melanie Clark. And Dr. Melanie Clark is, she works at Howard University, and she is really passionate about health literacy and encouraging people to do their research and understand the suggestions that their doctor or nurse practitioner or any other medical practitioner might make. So I'd like to open with Dr. Mel's introduction to health misinformation.
The coronavirus pandemic has shined a light on the very real consequences of misinformation. The World Health Organization even declared a global infodemic in early 2020. That just means that people struggle to navigate that surge of complicated and often conflicting information about COVID-19. A flood of bad information influenced real-world health decisions, making people less likely to follow public health guidance and more likely to seek out unproven treatments and decide against getting vaccinated. Misinformation thrives in times of uncertainty and risk, like in a pandemic, when people are afraid and seeking answers in a situation that's still evolving.
So she really sets the stage for reasons that health misinformation really reached an all-time high during the COVID pandemic. We follow that with a formative assessment that I absolutely love because it uses an authentic tweet and it asks students to call out the vulnerabilities that are being played upon in this tweet. So this is a great opportunity for students to even find their own tweets or other digital media that may prey upon the same vulnerabilities. Dr. Clark then gives students 4 different reasons or aspects of vulnerability. And the one that I really am drawn to is the one about influencers, because we know that influencers are everywhere, right? If Kylie Jenner promotes a product, that product is going to fly off of shelves. And so she explains how that preys upon vulnerabilities. Next, Dr. Clark I'm sorry, not Dr. Clark, but we give an opportunity to do some matching using those vulnerabilities. So this is another time that students will have the opportunity to interact with media that is actually from social media, right? Things that they might have seen themselves as they looked through social media. And then Dr. Clark goes on to talk about how evidence-based medicine kind of came about. And as a former science teacher, I must say that this is probably the part that I think is most amazing about this lesson, because it really introduces students or reinforces any instruction that you've done on experimental design. And how to create a quality science experiment. So we'll listen to a bit of what she has to say about the history of evidence-based medicine.
Science, medicine is driven by evidence and rooted in testing. It's not driven by intuition. But it wasn't always that way, and there's a lot we can learn from this history. Let me show you what I mean. For a long time, medicine was unscientific. In fact, it was often based on superstition, traditions, and mystical beliefs. Let's jump back in time and look at an example from the 1700s.
And so I know that we are at time, but Dr. Clark goes through the scurvy experiment that was done in, I believe, the 1400s, where a physician encountered soldiers, naval military personnel with scurvy and wanted to figure out why these men had scurvy. And through a very well-designed science experiment that included a control and experimental group, the doctor discovered that it is a deficiency in vitamin C. And I wish we had more time so that I could really delve into the next thing that I want to share, which is students are able to walk through designing an experiment with Dr. Clark herself. So that's a really great feature of this lesson.
Oh, Brittany, there was one question, and I would love to help you or have
Absolutely.
you talk a little bit about it, because I know a lot of people really enjoy this lesson. But it also brings up, the vaccine hesitation. But that's not a major focus of this lesson. What sort of support would you give educators saying, well, yes, Dr. Mel does speak to that. She talks about this, this, and this that would be more aligned to, as you said, scientific thinking with these examples that would kind of sway that into becoming more of a political conversation than it needs to be.
Correct. One way that I dealt with that when I was in the classroom, I taught biology, so it was a little different than someone who might be teaching a different science discipline. But what I did is I had students look for themselves and learn the science behind vaccines and kind of make the case themselves. So I never really told students what to think. I kind of just guided them through the process of developing their own opinion, which other educators may find helps kind of reduce that the concern about whether we are indoctrinating students or telling them what to believe. And so that's how I would handle it. But I'd love to hear any thoughts that you all have as well.
I know this lesson as well is accompanied by our other STEM resources that are definitely part of this course as well. Science-based evidence, I believe, making sense of data. So a whole bunch of new STEM resources.
Yes.
What about collectively? I know we're running out of time, but Brittany, what would you say collectively of the group of new resources?
I would say that they really give students a great foundation for understanding all of the science that they are seeing in the news and on social media, because you really can't escape it. People are still debating back and forth. And so it gives students the tools that they need to really understand what people are saying. And also, like I said earlier, make their own decisions. One thing that I love is the opportunity. I put this up kind of as the last piece of this demo, but the opportunity for students to write about science. Very rarely do students have the opportunity to sit and really think critically about things involving science and then put it into writing. And so I love that there are opportunities like that throughout our science resources.
Finally, I know you've done a lot of work with evaluating science-based claims and the subject matter experts for that fantastic lesson. Anything you want to touch upon that? Because I know it's also part of our science STEM summer course.
It cut out just a little bit, Shaylin. I'm so sorry. Will you repeat your question?
Yes, I know you've done a lot of work with the subject matter expert for evaluating science-based claims and the floater method introduced in there. Anything else you would say about that lesson? Because I know that one as well is one of your favorites.
Yes, that lesson is so comprehensive. Not only does it teach students how to evaluate a scientific claim, but what I love about the toolkit is that it turns it into a mnemonic device. So it's a little bit easier to remember when they are seeing these things in the wild. And I have to say that it's a great companion to our Check Center, where students can then find pieces of information on social media, bring it to class, and then do some of that fact checking within Checkology itself.
Well said. Thank you, Brittany. And I think Raylene, you said it perfectly. Yes, this is